What was the Mabo decision? Ask most Australians and you'll get a vague answer. Something about land, something about a court case, a name they half remember from school. But the real story doesn't start in a courtroom. It starts with a bloke pushing a wheelbarrow across a university lawn. His name was Eddie Koiki Mabo, a gardener, and he was about to take on the entire legal foundation Australia was built on, and win. Here's the part nobody tells you. He fought for that win for 10 years, and he never heard how it ended. Eddie Mabo was born in 1936 in a village called Lass-on-Mer, Murray Island, in the Torres Strait, that scatter of islands between the tip of Queensland and Papua New Guinea. His mother died 5 days after he was born. He was raised by his uncle in the island away, and he grew up on Merriam land, learning exactly where his family's gardens ended and the next family's began. On Mer, everyone knew. The boundaries were law. They'd been law for generations. Then he came to the mainland. He cut cane. He laid railway track. He worked the purling luggers. And eventually, at 31, he took a job as a gardener at James Cook University in Townsville. That garden changed the country, because Mabo wasn't just mowing lawns. He sat in on lectures. He spent his lunch breaks in the library, reading everything ever written about his own people. And in 1974, over lunch in a historian's office, 2 academics told him something that stopped him cold. The land on Mer, his land, his family's land, the gardens he could draw from memory, didn't belong to him. Not legally. Under Australian law, it was Crown land, the government's. It always had been. He didn't believe it. No way, he said. It's not theirs, it's ours. That is what Eddie Mabo fought for. Not money, not fame. The simple, obvious truth that the land his family had held for centuries was actually theirs. This is exactly the kind of story True Blue Education exists to tell. If that's your thing, do us a favour and hit subscribe. So why did he do what he did? Because the alternative was accepting a lie, and Mabo didn't have it in him. In 1982, Eddie Mabo and 4 other Murray Islanders, Sam Passy, David Passy, James Rice and Taluia Mapo Salih, launched a claim in the High Court. The case was called Mabo versus Queensland, and it went to war with a doctrine called terra nullius, Latin for land belonging to no one. It was the legal fiction Britain used in 1770 to claim the entire continent. The idea that before the Europeans turned up, Australia was effectively empty. No owners, no law, nobody home. Never mind the people who'd lived here for tens of thousands of years. The Mabo case set out to prove that was a lie, and Queensland fought back hard. At one point, the state government passed a law to wipe out the claim retroactively, to extinguish any title the islanders had without a cent of compensation. The High Court threw it out. It breached the Racial Discrimination Act. Strike one for Queensland, but the case dragged. Years of evidence, years of hearings, 10 years all up. And on the 21st of January 1992, Eddie Mabo died of cancer in Brisbane. 5 months. He missed it by 5 months. Because on the 3rd of June 1992, the High Court of Australia handed down its verdict. 6 judges to 1. They ruled that terra nullius was a fiction, that the Merriam people held native title to their land, rights that survived the British, that had never been lawfully wiped out. For the first time, Australian law admitted that this land was owned before 1988, before the first fleet. The version they teach kids in school, empty land, peacefully settled, was finished. That is the Mabo decision. And if stories like this are what you came for, True Blue Education is built on them. Subscribe and stick around. The next year, Parliament passed the Native Title Act, giving Indigenous Australians a path to claim traditional land right across the country. Eddie Mabo's name is now on the case that rewrote the nation's law, but the story doesn't end clean. 3 years after his death, after the traditional mourning period, his family held a memorial on Mer. The night after, his grave was desecrated. Swastikas, racial slurs, his bronze portrait torn off the headstone. So his family did the only thing left to do. They took him home, and they buried him on the island he'd spent his whole life proving was his. He never heard the verdict, but the land heard him.